What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're talking about 10 players you must trade for immediately that I think are going to help you win some fantasy football championships this year if you can get them on your team. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and let's go. So the first player we need to talk about today that needs to be your target for these next few days is to go get David Montgomery onto your roster. Now, he's going to miss a few games due to injury, so there's no reason for you to be a little bit worried. Of course, you're not going to be able to put David Montgomery into this week, but that is the reason that he is a target. When he's been healthy this season, Montgomery ranks 4th in RB usage, averaging 24.7 touches per game. 24 touches a game. Now, the yards per carry has been absolutely great, but the touchdowns have been great and the touches have been great. And when you have that combination, that's a lethal combination to get you fantasy football points each and every week. When we're talking about him this season, Montgomery is currently the RB9 on a fantasy points per game basis with 17 fantasy points per game. How is that going to look as we get into the playoffs? He's a top 10 RB for you. So go try to trade for David Montgomery because he's my first player that I'm targeting that you need to trade for immediately. My second player is going to be Hollywood Brown. So he had his worst game in week 6. So I totally understand and hear you there, but he still earned 11 targets. My man's been an absolute target hog, and he is still a top 24 wide receiver. Wide receiver 21 on a fantasy points per game basis with 13.9 fantasy points per game. But like I said, in 6 games, he's already earned 53 targets, where he is the wide receiver 15 on a target share this season. Of course, that's great. Plus the route participation, he's at 100%. So Hollywood Brown is a really good target because he's getting the volume. He still ranks as a top 20 wide receiver in production. And this is the thing. If Josh Dobbs can just improve his accuracy a little bit and or Kyler Murray comes back, all of a sudden we're talking about Hollywood Brown as maybe a top 16, top 15 wide receiver, and you just bought him at wide receiver 25 prices. So Hollywood Brown is my second player that I'm targeting to trade for immediately. My third player is going to be Josh Jacobs. He's had the quietest 30 opportunity game in week 6. Not a lot of people were talking about it, but the thing that's even more exciting about Josh Jacobs is he now leads all backs in targets and is number 1 in RB usage, averaging 24 opportunities a game. So like I said, we were talking about how David Montgomery had such a great usage and opportunity share. Well, look at Josh Jacobs. He's along the same exact lines. He's going to face the Bears and Giants over the next 3 weeks. Great target for my man, Josh Jacobs. So highly encourage you to go see if Josh Jacobs is available. Of course, you're going to have to pay up. You're talking second round draft prices. You're talking a top 5, top 6 RB. But if you can get Josh Jacobs at those prices, maybe you trade a high-end wide receiver. You have a few high-end wide receivers. You trade a high-end wide receiver to get the RB. Maybe you package 2 RBs together to get up to the Josh Jacobs tier. Those are moves that I'm willing to make to go get Josh Jacobs because I think as we get to week 12, week 13, week 14, Josh Jacobs is going to put your team on his back. And so I like Josh Jacobs as my third player to target. My fourth player to target is going to be Mikey Boy Evans. Mike Evans really had an interesting week in week 6. Evans earned a team high 10 targets and was just missed on a 90-yard touchdown. Shout out to Baker for missing my man Mike Evans because it was just like an 8-point fantasy football day in PPR. But Mike Evans is averaging 9.3 targets per game and is 4th in wide receiver efficiency across all wide receivers this season. His depth of target is relatively the same. He's been balling out. If you have Mike Evans, you know you've been happy with the value that you got with him in round 7 because if we knew Mike Evans was going to be performing like this, Mike Evans would have been a 4th or 5th round pick in your redraft league. So Mike Evans is another player that I'm definitely trying to target. If I could package 2 wide receivers, maybe a handcuff running back plus a wide receiver, those are moves that I'm looking to do to get Mike Evans, especially if I can get Mike Evans as my wide receiver 2. I feel great about it. Or even if I get him as a flex, like let's say I have a team of AJ Brown and Monroe St. Brown and I can add Mike Evans into that wide receiver fold. That is a move I'm looking to do. My 5th player is going to be Saquon Barkley. And yes, we are continuing on with heavy hitters, expensive pieces to go get this depth to add to your team. And maybe you're going to have to give up some depth to go get these elite level studs. But the studs are what's going to win you a fantasy football week. And that's what we want to do on a week by week basis. So it looks like based on last week that he's pretty much not fully recovered from his high ankle sprain, but I imagine by this week, he's going to be almost fully recovered. Saquon played 82% of the snaps and he earned 29 opportunities in week 6. So his efficiency should improve once Andrew Thomas and the offensive line gets a little bit more healthy. So we do need to remember that Andrew Thomas, absolutely elite level blocker in the backfield. So we do like Saquon Barkley and he is my 5th player to target. Like I said, same way with Josh Jacobs. You're probably going to have to trade away maybe a higher end wide receiver plus like a handcuff running back and or maybe another elite level running back to go get Saquon Barkley. But I think when we're looking at Saquon Barkley, I mean, who's the running backs ahead of him? You got CMC, you got Bijan, you got Austin Eckler. And then after that, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs. Like there's a lot of injury. There's a lot of question marks in this running back landscape. So I feel like if you can sneak in, go get Saquon Barkley, add that depth to your team right now, that's going to be a great move for you. My 6th player to go target is T. Higgins. We talked about him in our buy low, sell high trade video a few days ago, but T. Higgins is like at his bottomed out prices. He was pretty much used as a decoy in week 6. And the thing is, he was coming off injury, so we don't know how healthy T. Higgins was. We know we're throwing the ball to Jamar Chase, so let's just put T. Higgins out there, hopefully get some of the double coverage off of Jamar Chase. But this is the thing that we need to understand with T. Higgins. He's averaged 9.3 targets when he has been fully healthy this year, as much as those targets have sucked because of how the Bengals have looked early on in the season. Trade for him now because we saw Joe Burrow starting to scramble. We saw Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase building up that good connection. T. Higgins is just a great target for your lineups on a week-by-week basis. I know it hasn't been great, but you can definitely buy low. I think T. Higgins out of all these guys is definitely the cheapest guy that you can go get. Go add him as your wide receiver 3. The crazy thing about T. Higgins is he has the same type of upside as Mike Evans, but it's actually cheaper upside because you don't have to pay as much to go get T. Higgins. I like some T. Higgins, so go see what it's going to take to get T. Higgins to your team. So Jonathan Taylor, his snaps increased to 43% in week 6. Now, Anthony Richardson isn't back. Anthony Richardson is going to be out all year, so that is the concern with our boy Jonathan Taylor. With Gardner Minshew, I think it's still going to be fine. Zach Moss has been very productive in the touches that he's got. So I think if they progressively give Jonathan Taylor more work each and every week, like I said, he's at 43% last week. Maybe this week he gets up to 55. Next week he gets up to 65. By the time we're talking to week 10, he's going to get up to that 70% workload. Now, Zach Moss has been absolutely dominant. So I don't think Zach Moss is necessarily going to go away. But that's okay because this team is going to struggle to move the ball with Gardner Minshew. So they're going to have to become a run-dominant team, and that's going to play right into Jonathan Taylor's arm. He also had 6 targets from Gardner Minshew. So shout out to Jonathan Taylor because if he can be that third down, second down back, maybe they give the Zach Moss gets, first down, and then Jonathan Taylor can get the receptions, can get the touchdowns. That's something that we in the fantasy football community would love to see with Jonathan Taylor. I still have him as a top 12 running back rest of season. Go see what it's going to take to trade for Jonathan Taylor. My next guy is going to be TJ Hockenson. With JJ out, TJ Hockenson is the most exciting wide receiver tight end in this offense that I want to hold of. Of course, Jaden Addison got the touchdown last week. KJ Osborne has looked explosive in some of his plays, but really TJ Hockenson led the Vikings with the 27% target share last week. Cousins only threw the ball 31 times, so just imagine if there is more passing attempts in the future, how that's going to look for TJ Hockenson. I know a lot of people are like, well, TJ Hockenson should have been a higher level tight end. Right now he's the tight end 4 because Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews are all ahead of him. I think TJ Hockenson gets back to being that tight end 2, tight end 3 over the next few weeks, especially with him being the absolute focal point for the struggling Minnesota Vikings offense. And my last and final player that we're going to be talking about today is going to be Diontae Johnson. He's returning off of IR, so it's exciting because him and now George Pickens are going to be the top 2 wide receivers. If we look at his stats, last year he was top 10 in beating both man and zone coverage. My man's always open. I know Jamar Chase wore the 7-11 chain. Well, that should also go to Diontae Johnson because he's always open. Now, does he drop the ball a few times? Yes, he does. But he is always open. So go see what Diontae Johnson's going to be because whoever had him, he's either on the waivers, someone has him but's been stashing him. So if you can go offer someone relatively similar, they might like that value because they don't want to see Diontae Johnson play. But I think Diontae Johnson, the moment he gets on the field, he's had plenty of time to recover from the injury. So Diontae Johnson's definitely someone I'm trying to target because I was high on him pre-draft. I'm still high on him currently right now at this moment. So go see what Diontae Johnson would cost you this week. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.